ordinary raisins have passed themselves off as raisin nuts and gotten into 100 boxes of Raisin Nut Bran. They're out there and they're easy to spot because they're nothing like the plump, juicy raisins you'd expect in Raisin Nut Bran cereal. Find a box containing these imposter raisins plus a winning certificate and claim your $1,000 reward.
Ooh, let's get out of here. Come on, baby.
Start looking today.
You think to a certain extent we all follow fads?
Oh, yeah. I think we're like lemmings.
Say we don't.
Definitely.
Yeah. They all just say, your sideburns are getting a little...
I've had sideburns for years. I'm definitely on the cutting edge.
I figured that much. We're going to come on back in just a moment after a station break.
Tonight, Jay Leno's back on Jolly's show with political curmudgeon John McLaughlin, plus the music of Curtis Stigers and Blossom's Joey Lawrence, here on NBC.
Do you know the Chuck E. Cheese song? Well, sing along with me. At Chuck E. Cheese, the rapper is, have more fun than you ever did. Wiggle, you can jiggle, you can wiggle with Chuck E. Cheese, where things can be a kid. Now let's do it twice as fast. At Chuck E. Cheese, you can act like a kid, have more fun than you ever did. Wiggle, giggle, sizzle, lick, Chuck E. Cheese, where things can be a kid.
How would you like to get wealthy without any risk? You'll find out how in the next Van and Connie show. Plus, we're going to take hot air balloon flight school. See you then.
From WHO TV 13 Des Moines, this is a 24-hour news update.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Stacia Strand with this live news update. 8 o'clock, 31 degrees, a cloudy sky. Fire on the 7th floor of the U.S. West Telephone Company building on 10th and High Street in downtown Des Moines has been brought under control. It was about 7 o'clock this morning. At this hour, crews are working to clean out the smoke. We have reports of smoke on several upper stories of the building. Most streets surrounding the building have been reopened at this hour. What remains closed at this time is High Street between 9th and 11th. We'll have more local news in your forecast at 8:25.
Back now, 8 o'clock. It's a Tuesday morning. It's the 4th morning of February of '92. And straight ahead in this hour, our series this week on the assassination of JFK looks at the persuasive but circumstantial evidence that says the president's death was a mafia-ordered hit. And we'll continue our look at the new movie Final Analysis. This morning we'll talk with actor Richard Gere.
Do you always try to talk yourself out of what you want?
First day I played hooky.
Ooh, how come we don't talk with
Steamy.
Kim? How come we don't talk with Kim Basinger?
I think maybe we'll be talking to her tomorrow, perhaps.
Very good.
So just hold on.
I'll make sure to be here. Back in 3B, along with Katie Couric, I'm Bryant Gumbel. We're going to move to the news desk in just a little bit. Faith will bring us up to date.
The recession has forced a change in lifestyle for many families, and this morning we've got something for people wondering just how to save money. It's a newsletter called, appropriately, the Tightwad Gazette. And later in the hour, author Maya Angelou will be here. No, now, see, we kind of talked over author Maya Angelou will be here.
Let's go to the news desk. Here's Faith.
Thanks, Bryant. Forces loyal to the government of Venezuela have reportedly put down a coup attempt this morning by rebel forces. In a television address this morning, President Carlos Andrés Pérez said the rebels had been defeated and his government was in control. But sporadic gunfire is still reported, and rebels are said to still control several main roads into Caracas. President Bush telephoned Pérez this morning to offer his support. Japanese Prime Minister Kiichi Miyazawa says he may have used the wrong word in describing American workers. Miyazawa set off another flap Monday when he said Americans may lack a work ethic. Miyazawa says his intention was not to criticize U.S. workers, but to express his dismay at America's shift from manufacturing to Wall Street money systems. U.S. workers also reacted to Miyazawa's comments, stepping up another round of Japan bashing. But in the Pacific Northwest, where trade links with Japan are stronger than anywhere else in the United States, reaction was mixed. Jim Foreman reports.
I think it's a bunch of crap.
They're just taking our idea like everything else.
As they were knocking off for the day, workers were quickly reacting to the latest barb from the Japanese.
I think it's a bunch of baloney. So,
as truckers waited to unload, they said they felt hurt.
We'll do it ourselves. We don't need your technology. We don't need your know-how. We can do it. This is America, man. I mean, this is the greatest country on the planet Earth.
But at this construction site, one worker said maybe the Japanese have a point.
The Japanese produce a pretty good product, too. And people are going to buy the best product on the market. So I think it's up to us to produce a better product, or at least one as good, too.
And as workers headed home from aerospace giant Boeing, one outright agreed Americans do have a problem with the work ethic.
I used to live in Japan when I was in the service, and They've got a work ethic you wouldn't believe. They get out and exercise in the mornings. They play catch, softball, during breaks, things like that. Now, there's more of a work ethic there for sure.
Reaction from workers here in the Northwest is bound to be somewhat tempered. They know full well this part of the country is unique. The state of Washington actually has a trade surplus with the Japanese. Jim Foreman for NBC News, Seattle.
President Bush's economic recovery plan got some harsh and unexpected criticism Monday during a governor's meeting at the White House. Reporters were supposed to leave after the meeting, after the president's opening remarks, but Colorado Governor Roy Romer asked them to stay while he criticized the plan. Romer charged the plan is full of gimmicks. The president will be lobbying for his plan today before a National Convention of Grocers in Orlando, Florida. It's part of his plan to rally public support behind his proposals. Federal Reserve Board Chairman Alan Greenspan goes to Capitol Hill today to lobby for the president's recovery plan. Analysts hope, however, that he'll shed some light on whether the Fed expects to lower interest rates again. In Great Britain, the government has gone on the offensive against what has become a deadly trend there: teenagers sniffing glue and other ordinary household products. Margaret Larson reports.
14-year-old Jason Cumberledge died of a heart attack while sniffing air freshener from an aerosol can.
He was found the next morning and he was dead when they found him. And there were 13 cans of aerosol found around his body.
2 to 3 youngsters a week are dying from glue sniffing and solvent abuse in Britain, a record level of deaths. So the government has launched a massive public education campaign featuring TV ads intended to shock. The ads are aimed not at kids, but at adults.
We identified a gap between what children know about solvents and how they affect them, and what parents know. And this campaign is directed at making parents much more aware of the kinds of solvents and the kinds of problems that children may get into.
In Britain, 1 teenager in 10 will try solvent abuse at least once, and almost a quarter of those who die will be first-time abusers. The problem is so severe now, government officials felt they had no choice but to attack it head-on. Margaret Larson, NBC News, London.
The condition of the Earth's ozone layer is far worse than originally believed. That's the conclusion of NASA scientists after interpreting new data from the Discovery shuttle. David Garcia has more.
This computer animation from the Jet Propulsion Lab, the thinning ozone in red, shows a dramatic change since the first of the year.
An ozone hole could develop over Europe. In fact, we have seen over the course of 2 weeks ozone levels actually decreasing over Europe.
And the United States?
They also are decreasing over the United States, but the largest effect right now is over Europe because of the way the weather patterns are.
The new warning is based on data from the shuttle Discovery, launched last September. In space, Discovery deployed NASA's URS satellite for an unprecedented high-altitude study of one of the Earth's most powerful enemies, the depletion of the ozone layer. The danger is real, not hypothetical. The ozone layer is all that protects us from the ultraviolet rays of the sun. The less ozone, the more cancer.
A 1% decrease in ozone causes roughly a 3% increase in skin cancer.
Danger signals for Europe right now, potentially the United States next. And it's a danger that won't just go away. David Garcia for NBC News, Los Angeles.
Coming up on 8:07 now.
All right, let's swing it on down Willard's way. I saw him inside during the last half hour talking away, but now he's back outside. What were you doing in there?
We were cutting some promos for one of the greatest stations in America, WALA.
You were hard at work then.
In Mobile, Alabama.
Okay.
We were having a good time.
Sure.
Hey, listen, I was just good. You noticed the hat, partner?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like this hat?
Very nice.
Thank you. You like that. You wear these once in a while, don't you?
I wear one to work all the time in the winter.
I think they're good-looking hats. Going to San Antonio tomorrow. Going to be down there at the rodeo. We'll be doing live tomorrow morning, 7 to 9, so check it out. Going to be Mark McEwen getting married. I saw that in the paper. One of the nicest men in the whole world. Has nothing to do with the rodeo in San Antonio, but Mark is one of my friends. He's the great guru of weather for the CBS television network. That weather, remember CBS Eye used to always close and open? That was Mark. He was the weather eye, like the Nash air conditioner. Remember the air conditioner in the old Nash car in 1938 was a block of ice and a fan. St. Louis, Missouri. How sweet it is. Channel 5, KSDK, our beloved NBC station. They sponsored in the school system of St. Louis an art program. And take a look at some of these. These are really inspirational. The 3 finalists, and here's some of the, I believe we have all 3 of them. They will be made into posters, and you will see them all over the St. Louis area displayed on billboards. Keep St. Louis clean. That's a good one. Okay, a couple of birthdays this morning. Take a look at Florence. She's a native, lives right across the street from us. Florence Wigman of Bethesda, Maryland. She's 101, has her hair and nails done every week, and a beautiful lady. Take a look at Harry. I'm just wild about Harry. Harry, doesn't he look good? Harry Epstein, Kansas City, Missouri. Still works at the hardware store he's owned for 50 years, and says Kansas City barbecue kept him young. And look at that hair. Garagiola and I should find out what the secret is. Okay, a lot of rain and cloud cover down in the south, especially along the Gulf Coast today. They're calling for 2 to 4 inches of rain, and that is a place they don't need it, plus some strong gusty winds and thunderstorms. Heavy snow. They love this. New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, 4 to 8 inches of snow. How sweet it is. And the West Coast, mild temperatures out west of 71 in San Francisco today. Here's what's happening in your world even as we speak.
Well, today is going to seem cold outside. It's not all that cold. In fact, we're still 7 or 8 degrees above normal. Partly cloudy skies today, 39 in the metro. Northerly wind will make it feel a little cooler than that. Overnight, then, under clear skies, 22 degrees.
There you go. Well, I'll try to find a mechanical bull tomorrow, Brian.
That I want to see.
Set him up, make a vice president of.
All right, Willie, thank you. In the 28-plus years since President John F. Kennedy was assassinated, the only consensus on the killing is that the government's official explanation isn't believed by most Americans. Today, in the second part of our series, Who Killed JFK, we focus on the theory that the Mafia did it. In 1979, the House Select Committee on Assassinations concluded that 2 members of the Mafia had the motive, the means, and the method. Dallas mob boss Carlos Marcello certainly had the motive. He was deported to Central America by President Kennedy. And Cuba's Mafia boss, Santo Trafficante, was said to be infuriated by JFK's decision to restrict efforts to overthrow Castro, whose takeover had closed down the mob's Havana casinos. Only last month, Frank Regano, former attorney for Teamsters boss Jimmy Hoffa, dropped a bombshell by claiming that Hoffa had asked him to personally recruit Marcello and Trafficante for Kennedy's assassination. Congressman Louis Stokes knows the subject well. He chaired the House Select Committee on Assassinations, which concluded that there probably was a Mafia connection. He's in our NBC News Bureau in Washington, and here with me in New York is organized crime expert Robert Blakey, who was chief counsel to the Stokes Committee. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Congressman Stokes, let me start with you, if I might, as we begin. In 1979, your committee found there was a probable conspiracy and that organized crime may have had a hand in that. On what basis did you then, and do you now, still hold to that judgment?
I think we base a great deal of it upon the electronic surveillance transcripts that were available through the FBI. There were a number of conversations between members of organized crime that did lead one towards believing that they could have been involved.
In other words, the wiretaps indicated they had talked about it, but did you ever hear a wiretap that could have been seen as more than just circumstantial evidence?
No, because one of the things we found was that in the case of Marcella and also Trafficante, they were 2 individuals on whom they did not have any electronic surveillance. On the other members of organized crime, they were able to get it. But these 2 were very crafty and very difficult to be able to get electronic surveillance on.
All right, and as we move to Mr. Blakey, let me note that much of your argument was also rooted in an audio tape that indicated that more than 3 shots were fired, which would mean that Lee Harvey Oswald had fired some of those shots, but that the other one had to come from a different direction. Let's look now at the tape of the Zapruder film with the audio that was added by the House Select Committee. Listen for the 4 shots. Mr. Blakey, we argued the merits of the 4th shot tape yesterday, but even if we accept that there are 4 shots, and for the basis of this conversation, let's do that, why the 4th one perhaps from the Mafia?
Well, they clearly were under an unprecedented series of investigations. Trafficante was, Marcello actually was on trial in New Orleans on November the 22nd. Both of them perceived themselves as being under extraordinary and personal pressure by the Kennedy administration. So they clearly had the motive, and they obviously have the character that's consistent with killing people.
If all that holds true, let's start then our talking about this on November 24th, 1963, which is when Jack Ruby entered the picture, and roll that now infamous tape when in the Dallas police station it was Ruby who came out of the crowd and shot Lee Harvey Oswald. As we watch this tape unfold, Mr. Blakey, what kinds of associations were you able to establish between Ruby, Oswald, and the mob?
Well, you have to look at two things that you know well. If you accept two shooters in the plaza as a conspiracy, then you have to look at that tape. Either that tape is related to the assassination or it's a lone nut. And if you accept the possibility that it might be related, and then you want to look to see if there are connections between Oswald and Ruby, and who are they? And it turns out they immediately focus on Santos Trafficante in Tampa and Carlos Marcello in New Orleans. Among other things, Lee Harvey Oswald that summer in '62 was working for his uncle in a bar in New Orleans called Felix Oyster Bar. That bar had a bookmaking operation in it that was controlled by Carlos Marcello. Ruby himself ran the so-called Carousel Club. The Carousel Club got its strippers from the show bar in New Orleans that was run by Carlos Marcello's brother. So you have immediate associations, and in particular one, a man by the name of David Ferry, who hated Kennedy, expressed the notion that he ought to be shot, was working for Carlos Marcello, met with him repeatedly shortly before the assassination, and was a lifelong friend of Lee Harvey Oswald. So the associations are there. What's not there is the meeting. In other words, no smoking gun.
Right.
Loaded gun on the table.
But what's the logical explanation for Ruby carrying out mob orders at the clear expense of his own life?
Well, he's not necessarily at the expense of his own life.
Well, he's certainly going to be locked away forever.
No, it was widely believed in Texas at that time that if he did it under any burst of emotion, it would be like a manslaughter and he would serve a relatively short period of time. He had every expectation of two things: being considered a hero and getting a relatively short sentence. And once they asked him to do it, he had no real alternative.
That's true. Congressman Stokes, your committee was at least able to allow the possibility of a mafia connection. Why do you think that possibility was dismissed by the Warren Commission?
Well, the Warren Commission had actually made some investigation into Ruby's connection with Oswald, and they were unable to establish any type of conspiratorial connection between the two of them. And so at that point, they then abandoned any further investigation into organized crime itself. Our committee, however, did go into depth with a vast investigation of organized crime and its connections.
Understood. A final note. I know you've been talking to officials at the FBI and the CIA. Are those once secret files now going to be handed over to you? Will they be opened?
I have been given assurance by Bob Gates, the director of the CIA, that he has pledged his full and complete cooperation with the Congress in terms of the release of these files. And we have the same commitment from Judge Sessions, the director of the FBI.
Congressman Stokes, thank you. Robert Blakey, thank you very much. Tomorrow morning, as we continue our series, Who Killed JFK, we'll look into allegations that the federal government and the CIA may have been involved. Coming up on 8:17, we're back in a moment with the Tightwad Gazette after this.
This year, my buddy's the mail carrier.